Okay, well it's 1 o'clock here on the Eastern Time Zone, so good afternoon to all, or good morning, depending on your time zone at the moment. Thank you for joining us for a conversation on an important topic, one that is a priority for many large and small businesses and public and private institutions and organizations as well. My name is Ryan Montpellier. I'm the Executive Director at the Mining Industry Human Resources Council based in our nation's capital here in Ottawa. MiHR, as we're commonly known, is mandated to identify and address the human resources and labor market challenges and opportunities for the Canadian minerals and metals sector. We collaborate with mining and exploration companies, organized labor, contractors, educational institutions, industry associations, and various Aboriginal groups. As such, diversity and inclusion is a priority area for the Council and has been for many, many years. MiHR's projects and programs within this priority help mining employers effectively engage all potential sources of labor, including the recruitment, retention, and advancement of Aboriginal people, women, and immigrants. I would like to thank today's webinar host, Hire Immigrants at Ryerson University in Toronto. Hire Immigrants offers a unique platform for employers and businesses to find and share practical solutions for the types of challenges we're talking about today. Hire Immigrants provides employers with tips, tools, and resources that support workforce diversity and eliminate barriers to employment for newcomers. Today's timely topic, Thinking Globally, Acting Locally, Cross-Cultural Team Building and Diversity in the Workplace, is of great importance to many Canadian organizations and businesses that are increasingly recognizing the value-add, expertise, and skills internationally trained professionals bring to the workplace. But many also recognize the need to enhance, develop, or adopt organizational structures and tools for cross-cultural competency. We already know that cross-cultural competency in the workplace is key to managing diverse and inclusive workplace. But how do companies and businesses translate this into successful policies and practices that are reflective of this commitment? Well, we are honored today to have Dr. Marie Bountrogiani, Dean of the G. Raymond Chang School of Continuing Education at Ryerson University, to share her expertise and knowledge with us. Dr. Marie Bountrogiani is an educational psychologist, former president and executive director of the Royal Ontario Museum, and former member of the Provincial Parliament. As a former Ontario Cabinet Minister, Dr. Marie served as Minister of a number of portfolios, including Intergovernmental Affairs, Democratic Renewal, Children and Youth Services, and Citizenship and Immigration. A quick word about who else is in this virtual room with us. I see that the participant number is up to 52. I know we are a diverse group, and there's, I believe, over 200 participants who have registered for this. A great number of participants are business and industry leaders, and others are service providers. We are primarily a Canadian group, but we do have some international partners joining us as well. So welcome to all of our Canadian participants and also to our international colleagues as well. Now, before I turn it over to Dr. Marie, just a quick few words on MiHR, the Mining Industry Human Resources Council. Now, let me begin by saying that MiHR works to identify and address a number of challenges facing the mining industry today. And our work is grouped under three primary pillars. The first is our labor market information, and MiHR is a centralized and trusted responsive knowledge center for minerals and metals labor market trends, intelligence, and research, and to be frank, the go-to resource for the mining sector stakeholders with respect to HR issues. The second pillar of the organization is our focus on national occupational standards, training, and certification. We provide a number of resources and training programs to ensure that our workforce has the skills and competencies needed to operate productively and safely. And the third, and perhaps the most relevant pillar of our work to today's session, is our focus on optimizing all potential sources of labor. MiHR has a number of programs to increase the participation of Aboriginal people, women, and immigrants, which is clearly the focus of today's webinar. Now, Over the next decade, it is estimated that the mining industry will need to hire over 100,000 new workers to meet its production needs. Now, to meet this challenge, mining employers will need to make better use of all potential sources of labor supply, including attracting, recruiting more women, more youth, more Aboriginal people, and of course, more immigrants. As you can see from this slide, the representation of immigrants in the mining industry is lagging other sectors in Canada. In fact, immigrants make up almost 25% of the Canadian labor force, yet represent less than 15% of the Canadian mining labor force. Therefore, the attraction and recruitment of new Canadians, of immigrants, must be improved, not only in production occupations, but across all occupational groups in the mining sector. Now, in 2015, MiHR completed a survey of mining workers, and many workers who responded to the survey, whether they were immigrants or Canadian-born, indicated that it is harder for an immigrant to succeed in the workplace. On a 5-point scale, 44% of the respondents in the full survey sample replied that it is often or usually harder for an immigrant to succeed in the workplace. Now, our research has revealed some barriers and that difficulty in finding success. I'll quickly highlight those that are grounded in today's topic of intercultural competence and effective intercultural teams. I do encourage you to read the full research available on our website at www.mihr.ca. That being said, the first barrier was around language and communication barriers, and language competency continues to be widely perceived as a significant barrier facing immigrants in the mining sector. Research participants indicated that this barrier may be more subtle than just an ability to speak English at a basic level, and it can create challenges after hiring on the immigrants' social inclusion in the workplace as well. The second barrier dealt with cultural differences, and they can play an important role, and there is often limited awareness of the differences and their impact. Challenges that some people attribute to personality, such as extroversion versus introversion, are undoubtedly also infused with cross-cultural differences, such as openness versus privacy. The third area was also around culture and career advancement. And career advancement was identified as a major barrier for new Canadians as well, and not necessarily understanding the intricacies of career progression and the promotion process within an organization. All of those barriers, however, do lead us into the presentation today, and we will now turn, and it's my pleasure to turn, to Dr. Marie Buntrogiani to provide a bit more insight into cross-cultural competency and what it means to you and the role it plays in today's workplace. So over to you, Dr. Marie.
Oh, thank you very much, Ryan, for the introduction, and thank you to your team for organizing this very, very important discussion. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to be speaking with you today on behalf of the G. Raymond Chang School of Continuing Education at Ryerson University. And before I jump right into the topic, I want to tell you a little bit about our school. We are the biggest continuing education school in the country. We have over 70,000 annual enrollments, more than 1,500 courses, seminars, workshops, and about 20,000 of our enrollments are online courses. So we try and make learning accessible to people internationally and nationally. We offer over 80 career-related certificate programs and a number of course series and certificate programs. We have very flexible, accessible programming on campus, via distance education, and off-site for employee groups at organizations. We partner with a great number of people, as you can see from this slide, those of you that are joining in. Now, let's get into the topic of today, the reality, which is really important. There will be, according to the Conference Board of Canada, by 2025, so less than 9 years from now, a shortfall of 1.2 million skilled workers. 6 million Canadians, approximately 6 million, will retire in the next 2 decades. And it is predicted that skilled immigrants will account for all net population growth by 2031. Those are incredible statistics, and we need to address this reality pretty quickly. In fact, I would say we might even be a bit late and we need to catch up. Now, with respect to cross-cultural team building, a disproportionate number of our low-wage earners are immigrants. So the need for cross-cultural team building is immense. We're currently seeing a lot of immigrants holding jobs that do not take full advantage of their skill set and that do not require a post-secondary education. This is called malemployment, and it is a very serious issue throughout Canada. The other group that is highly affected are just young university and college graduates, but immigrants even more so suffer from malemployment. And what exactly does that mean? It means having 1 or 2 degrees and yet doing a job that you really only needed a high school education to do. And let's remember that today's immigrant in Canada is, by and large, highly educated in comparison to immigration of many decades past. And so we're going to see a lot more diversity in employee groups as population of these skilled immigrants continues to grow. Now, why do we want to hire immigrants? Well, first of all, speaking out of personal experience with my own family, but also through the research, we know that immigrants are motivated to be in Canada. They want to contribute. They have a proven record of success on Canadian teams. They want to contribute to organizations and to society. And it's important to encourage this collaboration amongst team members, both immigrant and not, in order to promote opportunities for them to work towards a common goal. As I said, they have a proven record of success on Canadian teams. It's beneficial for everyone when their skills are being fully utilized. Another reason is accessibility to foreign markets. Our new Canadians give us insight into working with these diverse markets. They come from these countries. They know the culture. They know the business practices. They've lived it. They've worked there. They've been educated there. It behooves us to take advantage of all of that knowledge. Now, there are a couple of things going on right now in Toronto, in Canada. One is Toronto Global, a new organization that is replacing the Invest Toronto organization, where that is exactly what we want to do, is have investment in Canada by taking advantage of the highly skilled new Canadians that we have here and bridging to their home countries. Another great organization is called Diversity on Board, and the Chang School will have the baton passed to it from Senator Amdavar on this organization, and that is online training for new Canadians on how to sit on not-for-profit boards. It's online, it's accessible, financially accessible, and this is the sort of thing that we need to have our new Canadians do in order to integrate successfully. So I applaud these organizations and others like them. As I said earlier, cross-cultural team building is good for business. Immigrants have a unique set of skills. They're highly collaborative. Many Canadian work environments are highly collaborative, and the ability to effectively communicate, foster mutual respect, work in teams, and support innovation are sought-after competencies. And these are competencies that many of our new Canadians have, and many of our new Canadians want to continue to train in these areas. We have, across the country, a number of programs in the post-secondary sector on bridging what the knowledge is of our new Canadians in their profession back home to what Canadian standards and expectations are. On this slide, you'll see what we have at the Chang School at Ryerson University. We have accounting and finance. We have medical doctors who are being trained to take on management positions in labs, in research facilities, in hospitals, while they await their turn for their residencies to practice as doctors in Canada. We have middle-level managers. That's very important for companies and for businesses. Midwifery. Again, when you think of our multicultural country, having a midwife that speaks your language is so important, and we have a very significant midwifery program. A social work program, again, for the same reasons, and an innovative communication program, which I'll talk about in a moment. These kinds of programs across the country are very important in order to leverage the education that other countries have paid for our new Canadians. They paid for their education, the new Canadians come here, and we need to leverage all that investment of other foreign countries in order to have our new Canadians be successful. And if they're successful, we're successful because it adds to our tax base and it adds also to the prosperity in general of our country. And in our university, as well as universities and colleges across the country, we can actually make some of these programs to fit the profession involved. As you can see from this slide, these are successful programs. 88% of social work graduates found employment within 1 year of graduating. Remember, these are internationally trained social workers. And internationally trained midwives have an exam pass that have increased from 32% to 100% as a result of a bridging program, and 90% of them are registered as midwives within 3 months of graduating. This is enormously successful, and again, I applaud these programs because we need people from different backgrounds in these health and related professions, basically because of our multicultural society. I mentioned earlier we have a Workplace Communication in Canada program, and there are others in the country as well. There are soft skills that are needed in the workplace. I don't really like the term soft skills, but that's what the industry calls them. And they're basically professional communication skills. I think they're pretty important skills. I wouldn't call them soft, but I want to use the term that industry uses so it's recognizable. It's really the effective exchange of information. Established over 9 years ago, this program offers courses for employers and individual learners in a variety of formats, online, in classroom, etc. And it's been well received by stakeholders across various sectors. There are certain things that in the country you come from you can do, and they're acceptable. Maybe you don't have to look someone in the eye when speaking. Maybe you shouldn't shake hands with certain genders. There are certain expectations here in the business world that have to be learned and more or less accepted if you want to be successful in the Canadian business and the Canadian workplace. Our surveys have shown that 97% of our graduates have a better understanding of the norms and the expectations of the Canadian workplace. And we've even had some informal feedback from our employer partners, which they tell us, you know, even people born here could really use taking this professional communication program. And I'll turn to my last slide before we turn it to discussion, and that's a new program called Experiential Learning Exchange here at the Chang School, and we see this across the country in post-secondary schools now. Students need hands-on experience to go hand in hand with their degrees, with their diplomas. Some programs are conducive to this intrinsically, others are not. We have to add that component. And our component has two major parts. One is coaching, where students, after they finish their certificates or their degrees, can buy bundles of 4 hours of one-to-one coaching. For example, how to write a great press release if you want to go into communications, or how to code in this language if you're going into data analytics, how to deal with difficult people, how to do a certain type of photography if you have a photography diploma, certificate, or degree. And the second is master classes. Master classes are basically workshops, but they're led by leaders in their field. And at the end of the master class, the participants have an excellent idea on what their goal is in that particular topic. So again, there are practicums. Our internationally trained physician program has a 3 to 4 week practicum in hospitals and pharmaceutical companies and labs, etc. And we find a high level of success of jobs attained afterwards. But more importantly than the jobs and getting a job is keeping a job. So with the proper lifelong learning, with the proper continuing education or training, or even in-house training in one's organization, you can not only get a really good job, but you can keep that job, have a prosperous family, contribute to a prosperous society, and overall, quite frankly, as a former immigration minister for Ontario, doing the right thing for citizens across the world. So again, I thank you for including me in this important discussion, and I look forward to the questions and answers and the comments made. Thank you, and thank you, Ryan, again.
No, thank you, Dr. Butriani. This was an excellent, great overview, and thanks for sharing with us some helpful tips and strategies on how to positively leverage diverse talent and what we as employers and HR agencies can do to support our industries. You've touched upon key issues, and I'd like to take the opportunity to ask just a few questions. And just to note to all participants, we will open it up for a Q&A in just about 5 minutes here. So if you do have questions, there will be a location for you to pose those momentarily. But my first question is, the mining sector clearly has struggled with building an inclusive workplace. We have done tremendous strides, I would say, in the last decade with respect to this, but continues to be a struggle for new Canadians to integrate into a mining environment. So what can the mining industry learn from the public sector or other sectors in terms of creating an inclusive workplace?
Well, the organizations in the public sector are great at ensuring that their hiring procedures are inclusive and diverse. Or if not great, that's their goal. They've had years of practice. It's part of legislation in a sense. So they're a very good model that should inspire all of us outside of the public sector in the name of facilitating a more inclusive workplace. And there needs to be more and more a critical mass of organizations adopting this inclusive hiring model in order to make this initiative last.
Excellent, thank you. Maybe you can add on, what are some of the tips that you could give to employers currently on the phone today who are looking to develop cross-cultural competency for their staff? So what would you provide in terms of tips or advice for them, or even at an organizational level?
Sure. Well, I think team building, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a formal team building exercise, but actually in the way people are placed and work together in teams should really be diverse. So you avoid people basically clustering amongst their own culture only. Now, there are times when you need the comfort of something familiar. I understand that as a psychologist, but in order to fully integrate, and so you're really helping them develop their language skills, their communication skills overall, and integrate into Canadian society, arranging the workplace in such a way where interaction with others, beyond their culture group is necessary is a good start. The other is professional development. I mentioned diversity on board. I mentioned communication in the Canadian workplace as a couple of programs, English as second language, obviously, workshops, and help make all of this learning accessible. There are organizations such as ours and many across the country that will come to you, to your organization, to give workshops, etc. Others is basically if you can have a mental health component to your workplace for everybody. If there is integration issues, if there are loneliness issues, they know that they have someone to talk to. But I would say that is for everyone, not just the new Canadian. And maybe if I may add, talking about their backgrounds amongst your colleagues. I'm ashamed to say that sometimes I'm surprised at the high level of education that some of our new Canadians have right in my own school. And when you know that background, you can actually benefit from it yourself as a leader in an organization. And that also benefits the new Canadian, and it also benefits those around because they see what their new colleague from another country that's possibly only been here for a year or even less can offer.
Excellent. Thanks for that. And it's certainly a diversity of opinion or an approach to problem solving certainly helps when people are approaching this subject from different perspectives. So certainly appreciate your comments on that. So thank you very much for that. It's now time for our Q&A and your participation. For those of you who have been on the call for the last or the last 25 minutes here or so, we're going to turn it over to you for a Q&A. So please now move from the chat box and submit your questions in the Q&A box. And my understanding here is that Hire Immigrants will be sending questions my way, and I will be asking them on behalf of participants. So I do have a first one here, and maybe I'll start with that, and then we'll continue to field these questions as they may come. So question number one for you. We've talked a lot about employers' role in fostering cross-cultural, competent workplaces. I'm interested in understanding the role newcomer or immigrant employee have in these efforts and initiatives. What expectations, if any, should employers have from their diverse employees? Good question.
Yeah, well, I think basically employers can expect immigrants to bring their unique expertise and skill sets, different ways of doing the same work, different techniques, different knowledge backgrounds, as well as the common background that we need to do a specific job. They're typically very motivated and enthusiastic about sharing their international experience and expertise, and I find very grateful for the opportunity. Something very specific that I can probably add to that, and this again is something that I learned doing my research in this area on malemployment, and this came out of a consultation I did with ministers, and in particular the Minister of Labor, and that is different countries may have different regulations in occupational health and safety standards. And the one thing that I remember from my meeting with the Labor Minister a few years ago on this issue is that was one of their biggest challenges with new Canadians, are the different regulations in different countries and the fear of accidents happening on the workplace. So I think that is something that is a very basic need that should be addressed very quickly. I think particularly in an industry like yours, Ryan, occupational health and safety training has to be a must. And we should expect that there may be differences depending on the country of origin. And there may actually be pleasant surprises on improving our regulations as well. So it works both ways. But I would not take for granted that great workers with great backgrounds have the same knowledge of the regulations in Canada that your industry, for example, may expect.
Thanks for that. That's great. Open it up to the participants again. We do have about 70 participants currently on the call, so if you do have questions, please feel free to use the submit your question in the Q&A box online. I do have one here from Victoria. How do employers and or job seekers access the WCC course and their costs associated with this course? If so, what are they, and how can we promote this program to employers and job seekers?
Sure. Depending on well, first of all, you can get it on our website at the Chang School. Even if you just Google or search Chang School WCC, it should take you to the link. The cost depends on what kind of WCC program you want. We have a shorter version. We have a shorter version. Sorry. We have an online version. We have in-class education on WCC. So it depends on what you are looking for. Our website can tell you all, and we have a wonderful program manager, Katerina, that will guide you as well.
Perfect. Thanks for that. Another question that has come out is one of the barriers that we have identified in the mining sector is really dealing with career advancement, in particular career advancements for immigrants. And the challenges include, understanding some of the different practices in Canadian workplaces, and also navigating workplace culture and, accessing opportunities for career development. All of those things are culturally driven in many cases in the mining sector. So what tips would you have for mining employers to ensure that their career advancement practices are more inclusive and able to address the needs of not just Canadian-born employees, but of all employees?
Right. Well, again, I have to go back to programs like the working in the Canadian, communicating in the Canadian workplace, like the WCC, and not only our program. There are programs other than ours as well that employers can send their employees to, or even in our case, we go into organizations and offer this in different formats. And it's different depending on the organization and the clientele. You may have some that just need a workshop. You may have others that need ongoing support, counseling, and education. Again, it depends on the depth of knowledge, experience, how many years the employees have been here with respect to what can be tailored to the industry's needs. But there are different ways and different formats, and organizations and schools across the country work with organizations to meet these needs.
Excellent.
Sorry,
another question.
I'd like to add something to that, if I may, Ryan. The
Absolutely.
other is, there are informal ways as well, and that's part of what we were talking about earlier, being in a team, a mixed team. Sometimes it's very natural and comfortable for people to work next to people that speak their language well, that know their cultural background. That's normal. I understand that completely. I would probably be the same if I went to a country where I didn't understand the language very well and I had the opportunity to sit beside and work beside someone that spoke English. But really the smart thing to do is to mix the teams up and to encourage openness. I think one thing I used to like to say, depending on which team I led in my many careers that I've had the honor to experience, is no question is stupid. Ask anything you want. When a new employee would come on, depending again where I worked, I would say, I expect you to bother me 5 times today with questions. If you're not, then I'll be worried. Like, in other words, lead by example. Say, so that they feel comfortable in asking questions. And maybe even have someone partner up with them for the first little while to answer all those questions. So if you can't do it through formal education, you can do it informally in your workplace, and I'm certain that that happens a lot of the time, but sometimes we're not conscious of it. We are off doing our own thing in our own little cubicle, and we're not conscious of what's going on around us. And it's not that we don't want to help, it's that we're all so busy. It's a North American phenomenon. We're all so busy. But it would benefit all of us if we paid attention and we inspired that kind of openness.
Excellent. I agree. I think the peer-to-peer coaching or the mentoring between colleagues is definitely a very strategic way of blending and building cross-cultural teams. So fully concur from my end. I have another question here that came in. How can we apply the model you highlighted for midwifery to the environment of mining technical occupations, like a technologist or a miner or a welder? So how do we approach that kind of program for new Canadians that want an employment or want to find employment in mining?
Okay, so basically midwifery, as you saw in the earlier slide, is one of our many bridging programs. So what your listener or caller or participant, sorry, this is a new medium for me too, is asking is what kind, can we apply this kind of bridging program to mining? And absolutely, we've had relationships with engineering technologists, with accountants, both new Canadians and existing born here Canadians. So typically what would happen in our school and other organizations is a curriculum committee would be formed. In this case, it would be from the mining industry, depending on what employee group. You may have multiple employee groups. You may just have one type of employee or job skill that you need. And you would work with us to develop curriculum, and then the format would be discussed. Would it be in-house? Would it be sending your employees to be participants at the school? Would it be an online training module that would be facilitated in the workplace? Again, every industry and even organizations within the same industry are unique. Distance is an issue I'm assuming distance would be an issue with mining, but there are universities and colleges everywhere, and also there is distance education so that mining companies can access for their employees, no matter where they are, these skills. And if there's accreditation involved, we do that with you as well. The school, whether it's ours or another school, will approach a particular accrediting body and say, here is the curriculum that we've worked together. Does it meet your standards to give accreditation to these employees if they take this education? And typically we do our homework. We're very experienced at this, as our colleagues across the country, and a certificate and a certification would be awarded. And that, I have to tell you, we take for granted what this means to people, and particularly new Canadians. I go to these, I go to the big graduations, but I go to the mini graduations of certificate holders and of bridging program participants very frequently, and their families are there. They're so proud of their accomplishment. Often their employers are there too, because they know that they will benefit, but they're also proud of their employees. So it's a win-win situation.
Absolutely. I have a comment here from, greetings from Abbotsford Community Services, and it's Sharon would like to add to the tips for employers that job shadowing for newly hired immigrants and on-the-job coaching and mentoring, definitely something that she would support as well. So thanks for your comment, Sharon. And moving over here from a comment, or a new question from Paula and Benoit. How do you feel about the difference between cross-cultural competency, i.e. how we view the behavior of the other within the target culture, how we see them, and cross-cultural security, in that how we reflect upon our behavior within the culture, how they see us? Would it not be more effective to start the dialogue from their viewpoint first to make sure newcomers feel secure within the target culture to maximize retention? This is inclusiveness versus integration. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, so important. Again, as a former immigration minister for Ontario, I have to say we in Canada have to do a better job, first of all, even before our prospective new Canadians come here, to know the Canadian mores and values. But equally important, it is important for us to appreciate the culture and mores of our new Canadians and where they come from. And that it's a two-way street, and that's very, very important. And boy, not to get political here, but with what we're hearing during this very nasty American campaign, it really darkens the soul to know that we have a long way to go. And of course everywhere, not just in the United States. And my opinion, and I'm so biased, and I put my bias on the table, is education. We need to have good education systems so that our children and grandchildren learn from very young to appreciate, not tolerate. We used to say tolerate proudly in Canada. We used to say, we tolerate differences, aren't we great? No, no, no. We should appreciate differences. And there's a difference. That kind of education is occurring, and perhaps it should be more widespread. I'd like to give a few workshops down in the United States myself, but and I understand that campaigns are political and things need to be said perhaps, but it's a two-way street. I think we can do a better job as a country of educating people before they come here, so that if our culture and norms and expectations are unacceptable, that's fair. Because if we, and then they can decide not to come here. Because if we put ourselves in their shoes, and we were thinking of immigrating to their country, because things happen in life, and sometimes you have to leave your country, and we found their morals and their cultures and their customs unacceptable, we would choose, unless we were desperate, not to go. And so why would we expect anything different? I think a more mutual understanding, and that comes from education and informing people of our expectations. And then the decision is theirs. And once they're here, let's appreciate their work ethic, their customs, even if they're different from ours. And we can all learn from each other. Truly, that comes from the parents, if I may speak for a moment as a child and youth psychologist, and how we role model behaviors to our children, and then the education system. And I'm talking about kindergarten and right up to and including post-secondary education. It's a failure of the education system if we have massive discrimination against newcomers. It's the failure of the education system more than the failure of any other institution. So I think we've got one of the best education systems in the world. People want to come from all over the world for our education system, but there's always room for improvement.
Thanks for that. That was a great answer. We may have time for just maybe one or two more questions here, so I'll encourage the participants, if you do have a question and want to get it in, to please send it my way. Another question here that just came in, what do we do if we make a cultural faux pas? And we do this with, I'm sure it has happened to some of us, in fact maybe even many of us, and if we have done this cultural faux pas, what to a colleague or from another culture, what do we do to fix it?
Yeah. Well, I think if you have in an employment place a culture of openness, generally speaking, for everyone, then people would feel comfortable telling each other, you know what, where I come from, that's an insult to me. Please, when I'm present, don't say those things. Where I come from, you know, we don't drink alcohol. You're free to have alcohol at the parties, but please don't push me to drink. I once went to a colleague right here who is not necessarily a new Canadian. She's been here for many, many years, but she was wearing her poppy for Remembrance Day for quite a few days after Remembrance Day. And so I made that mistake once, and I was born here, and a veteran actually approached me and said, you know, we only wear those on November the 11th. Those or up to November 11th. As soon as that 11th hour strikes, we all need to take our poppies off, and vets would appreciate if you did that, Marie. So I learned, and so I passed that on. So sometimes, you know, you learn from your own mistakes. You know, cultural mistakes are not just international or intercultural. They could be intracultural too. I've actually made them numerous times because I tend to be very open, and so I've made those mistakes. And as soon as they come out of my mouth, I say, I probably shouldn't have said that to this particular person, and I either apologize or I ask them, should I have not said that? Now, 9 times out of 10 people will shrug it off or laugh, but every once in a while, yeah, I'll get someone saying, you know what, Marie, that did make me feel uncomfortable because we're pretty private where I come from. So again, no hurt feelings. We're open. We're transparent. You know, we're all human. We make mistakes. And I think if you instill that in your workplace, the rest will follow. But in case, you know, in case you have an issue with someone that is being discriminatory, that is harassing, that is bullying, there's clear guidelines and legislation for those. And as a leader, you need to know what they are, and you need to warn those particular people that that is not tolerated in your workplace. So I would say that that's two endpoints of the same answer, but I think both equally important.
Thank you very much for that, Marie. I could not agree more. One last question here just came in from John asking, are organizations such as the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada, the PDAC, or the Mining Association of Canada, are they working on this sort of initiative? And maybe I'll answer this because I am a member of both organizations. To my understanding, there's a lot of work that is being done through us, through the Mining Industry Human Resources Council, on identifying barriers for women, for new Canadians, for Aboriginal people. And I would suggest that there's a lot of work happening with respect to educating people in the mining sector, in particular around Aboriginal cultural differences, probably less so from an immigrant and multicultural perspective for cultures outside of Canada. And there's certainly more that could be done in this space. But thank you for your question. And I'm not sure if there's anything that you'd like to add to this, Dr. Butrogiani, but certainly a very specific question to the mining space.
Well, no, I just generally want to say I want to thank you for doing this. Education is key, and education comes in many forms: awareness, regulations, laws, practices, policies, and using all the technology and media that we have today. We have no excuse really to get the message out and to get the information out. We have a lot of technology at our disposal. I mean, I'm almost 60 years old, and here I am doing a webinar, and so there's no excuse. We have to keep doing so. So congratulations for doing this. I think it's wonderful. It's needed, and the mining industry, I don't know where we would be, where our economy would be in Canada without it. You are a gem in our economy, so we need you to succeed. And if there's anything that post-secondary education can do to partner with you across the country, it behooves us in the education sector to do so.
Excellent. Well, this sort of a great way to end our Q&A, and thank you to all for your, and thank you, Marie, for sharing your expertise and wealth of knowledge and practical tips on this important topic with us. I'd now like to turn your attention to an interesting announcement that we're making. I'm very pleased to share with you that we are announcing today the creation of Ensemble, a virtual community of professionals interested in supporting and driving diversity and inclusion in Canada's mining industry. So Ensemble has its own online meeting space. It's there at Ensemble. Sorry, I'll move back here. Ensemble is its own private meeting space at ensemble.groupsite.com, where members connect to exchange best practices, learn from new research, share resources, post jobs to attract diverse candidates with the support of employment counselors, and get help and advice from other members. The network holds monthly webcast learning events and occasionally meets up across Canada. Ensemble is an open community, and it's free to join. Now, if you are an organization or you want to see a mining workforce that includes more talent from Indigenous people, for women, for immigrants to Canada, and make sure we can all participate in the workplace to our best abilities, then we certainly invite you to be part of Ensemble. Participating in this network will provide a place to share your knowledge. Participation allows you to connect with professionals in diversity and inclusion, government representatives, mining HR professionals, recruiters, immigrant serving organizations, academic and educators, diversity-focused industry associations, Indigenous associations, community representatives, and all invited to share your unique experience and perspectives and best practices in engaging a diverse and inclusive workforce for Canada's mining industry. So to join Ensemble, you can just go to the website, ensemble.groupsite.com. It's free to join, and our goal here is to create a portal where information can be shared. Once you become a member, you can participate in different ways. You can join or start a new conversation in our discussion forum. You can share helpful knowledge in our resource library, or you can access our learning calendar and sign up to participate in one of our events. You can also subscribe to get regular email updates about the network, flexible options, very customizable along the way. Just a quick point, Ensemble is not a place for consultants to advertise their services or for other for-profit groups to promote their events or products. This is a place where we want to build knowledge and build awareness of these issues. This is diversity networking, and we're hoping to bring a number of stakeholders together to share. So MiHR is launching Ensemble and acting as the network's first moderator as part of its broader work to strengthen diversity and inclusion in the Canadian mining industry. But MiHR would welcome additional partners in supporting Ensemble, including organizations or individuals representing and playing a leadership role. So if you do have an interest in this space, we'd certainly certainly welcome your participation along the way. Now, we are hosting a series of monthly webcasts. The next one will be November 8th. If you are interested in joining, there's an email contact there for you to log on to the monthly webcast. But if you join the Ensemble Network, you'll be able to join directly from there. And then we'll have a number of speakers over the course of the next several months from Women in Mining Canada, from Magnet and Ryerson University, from Mental Health Commission of Canada, from the University of British Columbia. We'll have a national panel of newcomer employment experts, a panel on gender mining executive champions, and they're part of our gender equity in mining program, so where we'll talk about why gender inclusion matters. And we'll also have a presentation from two of our partners at Goldcorp and Oshki Pimashawin, who is an Aboriginal community in northwestern Ontario. So we'd certainly invite you to do that. We may also have in-person meetups in various cities along the way, and we'll see if we can get, these will be social and networking events, but the goal again is to build a knowledge center around diversity and inclusion in the mining space. So thank you very much. It looks like our time here is running out. On behalf of all of our participants, on behalf of MiHR, Hire Immigrants, thank you to Dr. Marie Bunchorgiani, the Dean of the G. Raymond Chang School of Continuing Education at Ryerson University, for your thoughts and informative knowledge on this topic. Once again, once this webinar is complete, recording and downloadable resources will be available. You will be notified. These resources will be available on hireimmigrants.ca, so you can bookmark this page and share it with your colleagues and network. So to our audience here in Canada and beyond, please stay connected. Connect to our Ensemble network, and also I'm just going to mention that Hire Immigrants and the Royal Bank of Canada on October 28th will be hosting another webinar on what you need to know for starting a business, so please stay connected to Hire Immigrants as well. Finally, obviously we value your feedback on today's session, so if you have a few moments, please take time to complete our online evaluation by clicking on the link on your screen or in your email. So that concludes our session. Goodbye to everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we hope to see you next time. And once again, we encourage you to jump on board with Ensemble. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.